Welcome back to episode 7 of Within the Glasswood Forest. What we want to talk about today is change.
Change.
And embracing change. We want to talk about the consequences of being stagnant and what that could lead to for people that don't change. And then finally, maybe wrap it up from the perspective of what change does in the long run. So years to come, the choices you make today, how that could benefit you in the future. And really, truly, that's really all of it in a nutshell. Well, before we get started into the discussion, I think it's important to give people a little bit of an update about what's been going on with Glasswood. We've got some pretty awesome announcements. We signed on Nicole Smith-Schultz, and we are so excited about what she's working on. She's got a great short little story that we're going to be publishing here in the next couple of months. And I kind of said we weren't going to talk about it, or we're going to talk about it. I know we're really far into the production phase, and we're really excited. So Nicole's going to be publishing My Baby Doll, and I don't know if this will work, but somewhere right here, if it's working, we should have a picture of the cover of her book. So if it works, then awesome. If not, then we're going to cut that part out. But nonetheless, My Baby Doll should be releasing very soon by Nicole Smith-Schultz, and I'm telling you, it's a very short story, but it's very beautiful. It's written like a poem, yeah. And I think that when I read it, I was like, wow, this is deeper than just.
It's very heartfelt.
It is. It's written like a poem, and from mother to daughter, and I think that when mothers read this story, their heart's going to be filled with so much emotion and joy and love for their child, because it just tells it's just so true.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
It's love. Very beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. We will be reading it on the podcast eventually. Most likely, we'll probably have Nicole read it herself.
Yes.
I think that'd be the best path forward, right? Have her join us either virtually. Most likely it'll be virtually, but have her join in to the podcast and just read the story to the audiences. I think people would love it. Nicole is she's a elementary teacher. She's also a librarian,
yes.
And she's an author. She's written 5 books to date.
Yes.
You can check them out on our website. She's written some beautiful little stories that I think our kids love to read them. We read them to ours, and they were just like pointing at the little pictures in the book.
Well,
and I thought they were beautiful. And what I really like about her books, Nicole likes to not only she fits so perfectly with Glasswood Storyworks brand, which is we are planting wonder, grown through inspiration, and that's exactly what she's doing. She writes stories that are just centered around, hey, this is a story that teaches a lesson, right? Something that it leaves you with a sense of fulfillment.
I think it's the teacher.
I think it is. I think it really is. I think it's the teacher in her, and it's the mother in her. It's the teacher in her, and I see a lot of those same attributes in our writing as well, right? Where it's all catered towards not just saying, hey, pointing the finger to teach a kid a lesson, but looking through the lens of things that we learned along the way as children to say,
even as adults, though. Well, the kids in the story, they were coming up with these assumptions of, are they royalty or
right.
Something, because they dress differently.
Yeah, I that's what I liked about that book too, because when you read it as a kid, I can envision being a child reading that book and saying, oh, this is really teaching a small lesson here, to not just judge a book by its cover, so to speak.
I don't know those people.
Well, not just those people, but culture in general. And it's assuming that, oh, everybody must be just like us, when that's just not a reality anymore.
No, especially
it's not a reality.
Dressing different religions and cultures as well.
No, and I think that fits beautifully into today's topic of change.
Even for adults, though, it's, you see something, you're like, oh, that person's different.
Yeah, and that makes some people get uncomfortable with that. Yeah. And some people say, oh, I don't understand why they look so different.
Bad because they're different.
Bad or odd.
Just weird.
Right, just weird. Like, oh, that's taboo. Yeah. When in reality, they could be looking and thinking the exact same thing about us. Where,
I'm sure they do.
Like, oh wow, you're totally different than us. But I'm more led to believe that most people that have that feeling, I would hope, and that's what that book is so beautiful, because it gives you that experience through her writing to say, oh, I'm going to take a beat before I make past judgment. Yeah. On someone being different, and maybe just assume that they have a totally different lifestyle that I'm just not exposed to, and maybe get to know them first, because maybe it is just like in the story where, oh, I like baseball and you like baseball. Yeah. We're not so different after all. And maybe
at the end of the day, we're all people.
We are, right? And maybe we dress different. Maybe we have different, there's different beliefs, and they were, it's a story about 2 young little boys who find friendship, who understand by the end of the story how how life can there's so many similarities that we can draw on.
Oh, yeah.
And if we only want to focus on the things that are different about us, that's problematic, versus how can we find common ground and get to know each other.
That's the thing. People have to learn to find common ground. Yes.
And that goes back to what you were saying, which is this is a book from the parent's perspective where it's very enlightening.
Yeah.
For a parent to read it, because you're like, man, that's exactly what I want to instill in our children. I don't want to be that family who is in public, like they tug on, which kids are kids. I mean, my kid might see something totally different. Kids are so embarrassing. They'll be like, Dad, why is that person doing that? And you're like, please stop.
Yeah,
do not embarrass me right now. But so kids are kids. It's our duty, especially in today's society where we're in what they would consider, I think, from like a sociology perspective, it's just a digital blended world, right? So just having the internet, everything is so connected that we assume that because it's all connected, we should all just pretty much be the same now. And that has, to a certain extent, taken effect, right? Things that people do online, most likely they'll do it in Texas, they're going to do it in Louisiana, they'll do it in California, they'll do it in New York, they're going to do it all the way in Canada, they'll do it anywhere. Yeah. Trends are trends, whether that's fashion, whether that's, certain sayings that you hear young kids starting to say, right? And now we're on the older side having to look back and say like, oh, what's this the saying?
I didn't know the sayings even when I was a kid. So.
But my point is, all that to say, having access to the internet makes everything so accessible that the cultural diversities amongst just state boundaries are so broken that I used to feel as a kid when I would leave Texas and I would go to a different state, not only did the environment look different, people seemed different. Whenever I first went to Louisiana as a kid, and we would go deep in Louisiana, people seemed different. People dressed different. People talked different. And you were saying at one point, I think before we even started filming this, you were talking about this. What's the consequence of change? And there doesn't have to be a consequence if you take time to preserve culture. You take time to preserve the things that are meaningful in life, because just because you change doesn't mean you have to let certain things go. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of Cajun people that could truly speak Cajun French. Like, what is that? How much of that still exists? It's really sad when you think about just in the span of 2 generations, an entire language is lost.
They're really trying, and I appreciate it just because I know that I'm not in it. I'm not there. My children, unfortunately, aren't getting in touch with my culture, that I grew up in, but I like to see that it's being preserved.
You have to come to some sort of realization and acceptance that change can be good. However, preserve specific things in life. And you were mentioning earlier specific skill sets. Yeah, so you were talking about planting and gardening and because you can just go to the grocery store and get anything you want.
Mama, they had a garden.
Yeah.
He would hunt. They ate wild meat. A lot of
hunting deer and hogs and all of these things. Ducks, especially ducks. I know they enjoyed that a lot.
Turtles.
I feel like they would eat anything.
I'm one of them.
But that said, there was a difference of this is a necessity. Like, this is a way to live.
It's funny though, your mom and them are the same.
They are definitely the same, but it's not a Louisiana culture, even though we're Guidrys, it's Cajun influence in Texas.
Well, they definitely took it back with them.
But and we did the same thing. We ate a lot of fish, and we ate a lot of things off the river. Mm-hmm. And my mom and them did it because it was easy and it was fun. We had fun doing it. But a generation before that was not doing it because it was fun. They were doing it because it was needed.
It was definitely a need.
So you embrace change through that, right? It gets easier. You can go grocery shopping and you can pick up produce, and you have more access to things. They're more easily available. However, there's a part of the culture that gets lost in that happening. And I think it's very important to recognize what are you losing, because you don't have to lose it. Gumbo wasn't, I think back to like things that people would consider like a potluck. These meals they're luxuries now, right? You can go to a 5-star Cajun restaurant and get crawfish etouffee. You can have gumbo served tableside.
Not just that though, but I mean, I remember at a certain point as a kid, crawfish would go dig in the mud for some nasty bugs.
For a luxury bug. It's the same with other cuisines. Mm-hmm. Think about pho, for that matter. And right, it's delicious. But ultimately it's soup. It's just soup. And it's so complex, and it's got so much soul put into every drop. It's delicious. No one's arguing that.
But nobody, not just anybody can do it though, you know?
Right.
I mean,
And
people can, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. But it's recognizing that pho wasn't made just so people had a luxury soup.
Something
It was
to
made
enjoy.
to stretch. Let's feed multiple people. That's what gumbo was doing. It was feeding multiple
And
people.
the smothered potatoes.
Exactly. Whatever
my
it took to
favorite.
feed a multitude.
It's
Because
true.
it wasn't too many generations ago where
No.
we were in the Great Depression. And
My
it
grandpa was born
what can we do?
in that time.
Exactly. What
grew
can we
up.
do to feed a family on very, very little? But there is something beautiful to say. So we went through all of that change, right? Just to, you make it through the Great Depression, we get out of this, and I know that there's the boom, bust, boom. We go through cycles, but they go through all this hardship. What gets taken out of that? Certain things that's changed, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but prior to the Great Depression, I believe what I learned when I was even back in grade school was prior to the Great Depression, kids didn't just eat first. It was a time of prosperity. There was a time of plenty. So a lot of times it would be the parents who would make their food. What was happening was we have to make sure the next generation can survive. So we are sacrificing our hunger for theirs. We think about like, how can things that have affected our lives, whether it's a good change or a bad change, what sticks with us along the way? And that's still something to
There's
this
lessons
day.
to learn in it as
There
well.
are, and not only sometimes they're lessons that we keep with us, but sometimes they become almost habitual. It's second nature. So even in our home, when it's
feed the
supper
kids
time, who
first.
gets fed first? We make the kids' food,
how I
and then
grew
we
up,
make our
though.
food. And I think that's from generation to generation. That's just something that it feels appropriate.
There's a necessity for change regardless in all aspects. Humans, if they didn't adapt, they weren't going to make it.
Yeah, and that speaks across even just different religions have that same complex
Seasons.
understanding, right?
Time for change.
Right. Just we're Christians, so from a Christian
Yeah.
perspective, there's a time to plant, there's a time to
Seasons.
grow, right? There's different seasons,
Yeah.
and it's about adapting to those different changes. Now, depending on different religions, there's a lot of correlations there, and even just in the business mindset, it's about understanding if you don't change, you don't grow.
You will get left behind if you don't change.
Exactly.
In business, especially.
Especially in business, but from a spiritual perspective, it's the same thing across
same. You have
almost
to
every
grow.
religion, especially Christianity, where just learn to accept change because it's happening regardless.
Yeah.
And others are saying embrace the change and really understand that this is something that you should thrive for. It's something that you should embrace as a goal because it's needed to get you from point A to point
Yeah.
B.
And change hurts sometimes. It hurts
Yes.
depending on the change you're going. It hurts, like losing someone that hurts deeply, but that's a part of life. It's inevitable. It's going to change.
Unfortunately, it is a part of life.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why you hear a lot of people talk about like going through trials and tribulations, climbing mountains and climbing ladders. These things aren't easy,
No.
right? If you had to climb the mountain and every grueling reach for a rock and digging your heels in to be able to get up the mountain. These are things that we're saying, like, yes, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be hard then and there in the moment, but it's about when you get to the end and you make it to whatever your destination is, whether that's the top of the mountain, so to speak, because that's what most people assimilate in their mind is, hey, I'm climbing up this mountain, right? When you get to the top, you get the success of saying, I achieved this. Look at the beauty from this perspective.
I was going to say,
the
it's
safety.
the view, but...
Yes, it's comfortable to stay
But you also have
stay put. But if you never explored, if you never did anything outside of your comfort zone, these things can dwindle.
Yeah.
They're not everything lasts forever in that area.
No.
Think about from the perspective of like a hunter who ravages a specific area. If everyone starts hunting in that area, eventually game's going to get smarter. It's going to push further away from you.
Yes.
It's going to get more intelligent to say, hey, our numbers are dwindling. Let's change so that we can live. And then from there, what do you do as the hunter? You have to change. You have to get
adapt.
smarter, right, to your environment. You have to adapt to that change, but that might require you to go somewhere new,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
oh, well, we used to live in this area, and that's no longer working, so now we have to go way over here. Some people have this mindset where, exactly, they have the mindset where we don't have to move. We can stay put, and everything was
That's where farming came in.
right, and which takes a lot of work.
It's a
And
lot.
I think that understanding that right there, which is, oh, I don't have to change. Well, you realize that it's going to take a lot of work to not also change. So there's a some people might say, oh, well, it's a positive thing. If I like what I have, I'm just going to stay doing this forever. But to stay doing something forever when everything else around you is changing so rapidly, if you don't adapt, you get left behind. And if you choose to stay, what happens? It gets harder and harder and harder to maintain whatever it is you're doing. Think about this, for instance, and this was something we were studying on, and it makes a lot of sense. We see our children grow every day. We are slowly, and this is an organic change, so it's easier.
It's easy. It's
right.
very
The
small.
organic changes are so much easier than the ones that you have to choose to do. That could be pretty abrupt.
Those aren't like the abrupt one for me with the children was bringing them home from the hospital. After you got a brand new baby, you have your whole routine established. Then you come home, this whole other person.
Yeah.
And you have to rebuild everything around what works for everyone.
Right.
You know, because this little thing has upset the whole order.
No, and it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
However, it is still, nonetheless, it's a change. And it's a change that you have to learn to adapt to.
Yeah.
Because no one's prepared for it. That's why they make you stay at the hospital. They want to make sure if it's your first baby, like, how are you going to handle
keep it alive?
Yeah, can you handle this responsibility? But going back to what I was saying, it's a gradual change.
It is.
We see our children get older, and we have 3, so they're each one of them is on a different spectrum of this life cycle, right? So our oldest, by far, from day to day, I don't even really know how to keep up anymore. So this is a really bad example, so to speak. But being that she's the oldest, we thought we knew, like, okay, we only have to do it this way and check the box. We'll treat the other 2 the same.
Each one's different, so you can't parent one the same way you parented the other because they're different people.
They are totally different people.
Totally different.
And I think that the moment you have multiple children, or even if you're not a parent, but say you're a caregiver or you're a teacher, whenever I think about the gradual change with Rachel, it goes, obviously she's the oldest. It clearly, the way we parent her, we cannot parent the other 2. Rachel was so easy to parent as a child. She was so easy, right? Everything was cake. If we wanted to go on a road trip, she didn't cry.
No,
right?
She just sat and played.
So
Charlie.
Along comes Charlie, and you're like, this is cake. Let's go on a road trip.
We got this. Yeah, right.
I never forget coming back home from Houston. She screamed and cried the entire way home.
2 hours.
Yes, 2 hours of ear-piercing screams. And
as little as she was, though, your sister had said something. Her and Annalise are very close in age. And Annalise was bigger than Charlie. And she'd cry so soft and so low you could barely hear her. And Charlie's little behind was just,
yes.
She had like some power lungs.
No, Charlie does. And then here comes Jude. And
he's like a mashup of Rachel and Charlie.
He's a little bit of both. He's a little bit more easygoing on certain things. But nonetheless, once he's upset, he's not going to listen. These kids
Or if he just doesn't want to listen.
But all that to say, each person on a individual level, they're so different. And as a parent, you have to adapt to that type of change. You can't, I know now, I wish we would have been a little bit better at understanding how drastic it was going to be with Charlie, because we had to learn through pain.
But how did we not even think? We saw my brother and Heather.
I know.
All the kids, 5 different
I think it's
people.
life.
How did we not even come to think like, okay, they're not going to be the same?
No, I think it's life, because you see all these other your family and friends and their kids, they all grow up and they're all telling you like, oh, don't expect it to be the same. But then you have your own family and you're like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about.
Or yeah, the kids aren't that bad. It's not that bad. Because
let me tell you what.
People used to say that whenever I had just Rachel. They were like, oh, you got your hands full. And I'm just, I thought to myself, really, I don't. It's not bad. Then when Charlie come along, it was like, oh, okay, that's a little bit more. And then I was like, it's really not that bad than Jude. It's then Charlie and Jude, thing 1 and thing 2.
They are a power together. They were tearing the whole studio up. Every time we would get everything set up, they would just go and tear it up right behind you.
Would be hanging from the ceiling fan. Charlie would be throwing stuff.
Turning the ceiling fan on and off just to make sure he hurts himself. Yes, these kids they're bananas, and I love them to death, but they are all so different. We have to learn and adapt to say, how do you cope and handle and cater
towards their needs? I still don't even know what to do with Jude, like potty training. That's
I think, yes, he has been the absolute hardest to potty train.
Jude doesn't have the concept. I think once he has the concept, he will get it, but buddy, he's not having it.
I'm telling you, listen, he's 2 years old. Whenever he's ready, he will use the potty.
Yeah, but if by that, he'll be using the diaper until he's 6.
No, we're not going to let that happen. Listen, if there's anybody out there who has cracked or knows the hack to figure this out, let us know in the comments on what we could be doing better, because he's 2 years old and he just refuses to use the potty.
Try rewards. It doesn't work.
No, we give candy. We give ice cream.
I'll give game
We bought
time.
a small little bitty toilet for him. We've done it all.
He's not afraid of the toilet.
He's not afraid of them. He sits
He
on
likes
it.
to use it.
He just likes to sit on it. He doesn't do
He likes
anything.
to use the toilet, but he doesn't like to use the toilet for its intended
Right.
purpose.
No, he likes it as a chair, nothing more. But that said, they're all totally different. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier, that's an organic change nonetheless. Now, we do get the abrupt change perspective because we have multiple kids. Now, but a teacher, think about, they're so used to teaching a specific age group year after year after year, right? So it's, say you teach the 3rd grade. So all your kids come in at that exact same age group every year. You just get a new influx of them. But cultures change. Technology changes. So how, as a teacher, do you stay firm in your beliefs of, I've taught this same subject, all these subjects in this exact same curriculum, the same style of teaching for 20 years, but eventually it might not work. And some teachers can be looked at, hey, you're not keeping up with the times, or hey, the kids aren't grasping what you're trying to present them, because maybe there's a new way to understand. Kids are coming in a little bit more educated. I feel like every generation has been exposed to technology so much quicker, right? Our children can turn on the Xbox, they can navigate through all the social media channels.
Personally, I feel like they're too young.
They are too young.
I don't allow a lot of screen time.
Well, and we don't.
For devices.
No, we limit it. Obviously, we limit it.
Rachel's 11 and she has strict limits.
We give strict limits on game time. And it's not like we sat down and said, hey, this is how you use the remote, or here's how you play up, the Xbox. You don't have to teach them how to use these devices.
No, but then
they make them so easy that...
But it's frustrating. Then you have, if we told Rachel to go turn on the washing machine.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't even know
she
what to
wouldn't
do.
know what to do. The dishwasher.
Right.
She's done it. Now she knows what to do. But she needed step-by-step instructions.
It's funny because those might almost be things that have really not changed much. For parenting in general, what works for one child might not work for the next child. But it's more abrupt to me for where a teacher can see drastic changes, because you see these kids go from, say they're 8 years old and they go to 8 to 9 year olds in your classroom, they leave. And then the next generation of 8 to 9 year olds come into your classroom, but they're totally different.
It's not just that, not just a different generation of kids coming. Each one of them are different.
So, and that's where I look at things through two different lenses from a psychological standpoint, each individual mind, versus a sociological standpoint. So how the culture has affected a group of children. So all these kids come through and they're more adapt to technology. It's almost commonplace, right? So this is just, you would expect kids to be able to come through and have be able to work on tablets, to be able to utilize a computer. So it's just super normal. We had a lot of little bitty games that we got to play that were super rewarding.
Yeah.
I was always stressed out whenever they would walk in and they would put the mat over the keyboard to where you can no longer see the keys. So they were trying to teach us how to type.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, this is not working for me, because I was that type of person, up, down, I'd look at the keys.
Up, down, all around.
Right. You realize after you do something so much and it becomes almost instinct, right? So I couldn't figure it out. I was so stressed. I was always stressed out about that. I'd walk in and our mats, they weren't even a normal color. Maybe that would have helped it. They were bright orange. So whenever you walked in and you saw these really bright orange mats on the keyboard, you were like, oh no, this is going to be one of those days. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. From a business perspective, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, because I think that businesses, they come and they go. Some businesses stick around, and you'll see a commercial where it's hey, celebrating our 100th anniversary. Yeah. And then there's other businesses that come through and they don't make it 5 years. Some of them barely make it a year. And a lot of them, it's not because they didn't have intelligent people working for them. It's not because they didn't have the funding to make something successful. A lot of it is people's inability to adapt and to change and to keep up with two perspectives of either you're the trendsetter or you're a trend follower. And either way, if you're on the trend setting stage, right, you're leading the initiative to say, we have been working really hard and we think this is a great idea. Let's push out something new that no one's ever thought of. And then other people will follow suit. They'll create a very similar method, a very similar product to be able to match what you're doing so that they can stay competitive. But then they have other people in businesses that will say, we're good. We like the way we do it. and we don't have to change. We're going to we're profitable today, and we're going to be profitable forever. How many businesses have come and gone? Think about Blockbuster, right? Yeah. So Blockbuster is a really good example of their brick and mortar, and their philosophy was, their business culture was, we're going to sell, brick and mortar style. We're going to rent DVDs to people. They're going to come in. Always, they're never going to stop. And I miss it too.
I miss it.
It's so nostalgic, right?
It's an experience our children will likely never have.
They'll never experience that feeling of walking into it. And I think they leaned into the nostalgia more than this is what people are comfortable doing versus what's convenient. And convenience most of the time is going to win.
It does.
What is convenient? Clicking a button. That's convenient, right? You click the button, it's yours.
You didn't have to leave your house for Netflix.
You have to leave the home, right? And who were they competing with? They were competing with what was Netflix at the time. They didn't even have a streaming service.
No, it was just DVDs.
They would mail them to your house. They would come in the mail.
Send it back whenever. No late fees.
But then
that's where they got people with no late fees.
Right, no late fees. Right, you can keep it as long as you want. Mail it in whenever you're ready.
Send it back when you get time.
But Netflix didn't stay stagnant. That's the consequence of not adapting to change. You can be the stagnant person.
I am wholeheartedly in the belief system that for business, especially for business, you must change.
You have to change.
It's inevitable.
And it's not saying
you will not make it.
No, and it's not saying, I got to do things different all the time or what we did. But it's
hard enough.
Yeah. What is your goal? Glasswood Storyworks, we write children's books. We produce children's, content.
Yes.
We want to be able to bring things to parents and teachers and business people that fulfills that need of saying, this is inspirational for me to be able to teach my child.
Yeah.
And that's important, but how do you keep up with, delivering that content?
Yeah.
How do you change in a way that says, who we are today is not who we're going to be in 10 years.
No.
It's not definitely won't be who we are in 20 years.
No, so I'm not who I was 5 years ago.
Right. But how does we as individuals, as we change, it influences what we deliver to our viewers, to our listeners, and to our readers. We will produce things differently in the future. It's a story arc. I'll pick something that most people would know. Say Harry Potter, the first 3 books, right? Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, and The Prisoner of Azkaban. So you just take those 3 titles. Those 3 books are, Harry and his friends are, they're younger than 13. So it's a little lighter writing, right? They're getting darker, but they're substantially nowhere near as dark as whenever you go to book 4, Goblet of Fire, right? That's a drastic difference. They get you attached to Cedric Diggory and Prisoner of Azkaban, and then they kill him in the Goblet of Fire. So it's a huge change. All that to say, J.K. Rowling wrote these stories gradually, the story arc. Not only was the story itself getting darker and darker, the characters were growing older, they were changing, their interests changed, because she, as a writer, as a human being, she just changed, right? She understood that, hey, who's your audience? Is it the same person who bought this book when they were 11? Because maybe they're 13 or 14 years old now. And I think that when people can cram out books very quickly, it's like there are certain authors that will write a saga and they'll get 3 or 4 books out in a year. You don't see much change in that. But for someone who maybe has written a book for one generation, that generation, you come back and you're writing, you want to take in the new generation. So you have to make sure that you cater to them a good bit. But you can't lose sight of, hey, my audience is also maybe a little older, and they're going to return back and pick that book back up. And they're going to want to read that story and still have something that connects them to the book. And I mean, I read these books annually. It's seeing how drastically different they are. You put that into perspective with all things in life. Businesses change. People change. You can either choose to stay stagnant, but you're going to get left behind. The mass of success will pass you up because that's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast. And it sounds super aggressive, like, if you're unwilling to change, you're going to fail. Well, some people change and then they fall.
Are you going to go down without a fight, or you're going to say, I put everything into this. If I go down, it's not because I didn't try.
That's perfectly well said, because you have to try.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting the effort into
you gotta fight.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier about climbing the mountain. If you're not climbing,
well, that's the thing in Christian faith. It's you got to fight. You just can't just stay the way you were. You're supposed to change.
Mm-hmm. Many cultures, especially religion, teaches you don't just accept something and say,
well, that's how it's going to be forever.
This is who I am forever, right? No, it's immediately, okay, now let's piece together a new you. You don't put new wine into old bottles.
No, yeah, you have to become new to
Right.
take in.
So you become a new vessel because you're going to contain new attributes. Change in a way that if you don't, you can't contain the new you in the old, like the old you's mindset.
It doesn't mix. Yeah.
No, it doesn't mix. And I think that, you know, as parents, we have to change. We change for their sake, but I think people lose sight of the one part where I'm always having to remind myself, where it's easy to say, you know, maybe I don't change because all my focus is to protect my children, you know, to provide for my children, to create a life for my children. But you have to change to keep up with that.
Every part of it is a step. It's change, it's learning to adapt.
The things you suffer for today, your future self is going to thank you for it, because life will be easier. Life will be more fulfilling. Maybe it's not easier and it's always a challenge. Things are always tough. It's not like businesses, you know, or just kind of continue in that thought process. Businesses don't just figure it out and then it's always easy. No, they just adapt to say, this is going to hurt, but to succeed, we have to learn to accept the pain, which is, this is what it means to go out, and businesses pay so much money between marketing and sales. And it's not, if the products and their return customers would just continue to buy without question, they wouldn't have to continue to invest money into marketing, invest money into salesmen going out and giving it their all, fighting for business. But that's the nature of the beast. This is a continual fight for your business to succeed. Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine, which means there's run and maintain, and there's also going to be maintenance being done to keep this machine moving along. Because if it's not being maintained, it's going to seize up. The gears are going to start locking up, and then all of a sudden clients are going to shift to somebody else because, you know, they're offering better incentives or they have stronger relationships. That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
You have to keep up with it. People just think like, oh, well, we were successful, so we'll always be successful. They will be just like Blockbuster. They will close shop.
It's unfortunate.
They will close shop because they weren't willing to adapt to what, and it's not that.
And again, though, even those that do adapt, some people, they do fall by the wayside, and it's unfortunate, but it is part of it. But again, are you going to say that you did everything you could? Because I will fight till the bitter end, put it that way.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I will fight.
Well, that's very similar what you're saying. I mean, I feel that as a parent, we're going to fight to the bitter end to provide. And for the business, we're going to fight to the bitter end to create something that's prosperous, because we believe in what we're doing, and it's important. It's understanding that not every decision we make is the right one. Not every choice that we make will be perfect.
You have to learn.
Yes, you have to learn from failure. And what did Thomas Edison say? It's you know, making the light bulb. It wasn't, I failed 1,000 times.
Yes.
No, I just learned 1,000 ways not to do this.
Yeah.
Right? This is hard work. But this is many ways how not to do it. And then when it finally clicks,
it's the click
it's so
part.
Rewarding. That's that small amount of that feeling that you get of when you learn something. You're like, okay.
I do believe that change is good, but I also think that some things, we let it change so much that we lose things. I told you my grandpa, he used to plant seeds, and he used to know how to preserve his seeds and stuff without going to the store to buy the seeds. That's something we've lost in one generation because of change.
No, and I think it's very valuable to talk about. Sometimes there is a consequence to change. We both have. It's
not bad to change, but don't lose certain skills because of changes. You know what I'm saying? Like we've lost the skill to plant and grow our own food as people. Like I said, in one generation, that's been lost in my family
because of advancements in technology.
Yes, but because we got lazy with it. It's like, let's embrace the change, but not forget our roots.
See. Well, then that almost counters what I was trying to say a while ago, where it's not a constant. No, that's exactly why we're having the conversation, because a lot of people think there's just two sides to this, which is someone like myself who says, oh, I'm all for change. Everything that we can change for the better, I'm all for it. And then there's maybe like your perspective, which is, hey, how about we just keep things the same? And but ultimately, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, where I'm so mixed. And I think most people are. Most people will say, oh, I don't like change at all. But then there's certain things that they do actually like to see changed.
I'm like that as well. I feel like I'm resistant to change, but at the same time, I know deep down, I feel that it's a need. I want the change, but I can sit so comfortably in something that I won't change.
Is it changes in career, changes in your family dynamics, changes in just your day-to-day activities? Because I think there's certain levels of change where if specific things that you would categorize on like a level of of how like serious it is to your life and how it could affect you, you know, little changes like that, something that would be towards the bottom of the totem pole, would be okay. Little things changed, and I used to get up, you know, 30 minutes earlier. Or later or whatever it is, right? And then you change it, and you're like, well, that's not that big of a change. But then someone like, for instance, Heather and them, who their whole entire school system changed, and you think too, they had a 5-day school week.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the school board voted, and they have a 4-day school week. And it wasn't just, we just don't go to school on Mondays. It was, we go to school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and those days are longer.
Yeah.
Right? They're longer because they have to make up the difference of the day that they lost. What does that affect? You know, the school board, maybe most of the people on that board thought it was a good benefit.
I wrote a paper about that.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah, I did. I wrote a paper about that. The argument of some wanted a 4-day school week, but others that opposed said it was issues with longer school days, childcare.
Right. And because it does go both ways in a situation where something like this magnitude of change, what does that mean for the parent who has children in daycare? Is it, oh, I don't have to bring them except, you know, 4 days a week? Or is it now that they're no longer in school, they have to have additional care for their child because they are at work still? It's not like,
yes,
hey, because the school changed, that doesn't mean that, you know, the place of where they work is going to say, oh, you don't have to come in on Mondays now.
No, absolutely. I look at that still as in the mindset of our children in school as well. I would prefer personally a 4-day week. Just because, you know, like longer weekends, we have them home. If
you had to ask someone how they felt about the feeling of the change, right? So,
and some might not like
the child. I don't think there'd be a single child that would be like, this isn't fair. I just wanted to go to school 5 days a week.
That's the part that I would have been that one child.
You probably would have been the only one child.
I would have been that one child to be like, this is awesome. We get a 4-day school week, but then I'm going to start having anxiety. You know, you got to get to school earlier. You got to stay longer. And I would be having the most anxiety about it.
Kids get dropped off for their first day of school. And at the end of the day, they make it through the first day. And it's like, oh, that was great. And like, see you next year. And they're like, oh, no.
Some little kids are like,
this is day one.
I don't want to go anymore.
You're going to be here for the next several months. This is a whole, you know, this is what you do now.
Poor things.
I've never seen myself as somebody who has been super resistant to change. But there are certain things that I find over time where if they are slightly put out of order, everything about my day seems to be messed up. And that's where I kind of like, I challenge myself to say, oh, am I really that type of person who says, oh, I advocate, I'm in full vote of whatever the change is, I'm all for it? Because sometimes I don't think I would be. Just setting, like we were talking about earlier, just setting up a studio, just getting things organized so that you can do a film recording like this. So many things get moved around and I'm like, okay, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like the way this feels.
That's me. Whenever I'm driving and if the GPS takes me on a different route, I'm gonna tell you, it upsets my whole world because I'm just thinking, I start getting anxiety. I'm like, I'm gonna get lost because none of this is familiar. Why am I not going the same path I was supposed to go the last time I put in the address? Right.
But see, we're very dependent on technology in that regard. And you mentioned in the beginning about...
you lose skill of reading maps.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, we used to go on road trips and they weren't like super far, but they were far enough to where we would pull out a map and it would get traced on the map like, hey, we're gonna hit these highways, we're gonna take this turn here.
Yes.
And we would just set out on a road trip.
We took long ones as well. I remember my mom having a big giant map, just sitting there reading it.
Right, y'all would drive all the way to Missouri.
Yeah, we got to go, this place. and
with no GPS.
No.
I literally couldn't make it to the office today without my phone. I wouldn't know what would happen if there's a little bit of traffic and I needed to divert and I wouldn't know where to go. And I've driven it every day, but we get so dependent, but you're no longer thinking about point A to point B.
Yeah, you see, that's the part where, as I mentioned earlier, that I feel as if certain change has crippled us.
Well, here's another perspective for it. I see this in video games. You can play specific video games, name any type of open RPG there is, say Assassin's Creed for that matter, or Skyrim, any of these big open world video games that people like to play, and which I love playing them. If there's a map in the bottom left or right hand corner of the game, I feel most people, if it's an open world game, spend majority of their time staring just at that map.
Rachel showed me that in Zelda that you can take it all off.
You can.
And I said, I am not taking it off because I'm not going to know where to go.
Yes, and I think that most people would spend more time staring at the little bitty icon on the map to show them where they're supposed to be going. Because the moment if a video game gives you the ability to remove the map and you need to get to the next village where the mission would go, you're like, how do I get there?
Yeah,
I don't know
where
how
do I
to get
start?
there.
You're gonna
And
go
a lot of
with it.
people think like, oh, well, that's just a video game. It's different. But really and truly,
same.
it's a sense of direction. You played the game for, some people put hundreds of hours into games. If you, there's not that many different paths to take.
You have good sense of direction, though. See, my mom would always, she would get so frustrated when she would drive with her sister. She said, Pat has no sense of direction. She said, you'll get lost anywhere.
The moment I feel the stress of, okay, I need to get out of here, say the GPS dies, I'll start looking at like, where's the sun at? So I can locate
That
east
is
or
so
west.
funny. It's like, yeah, you get into
I'll
survival
start thinking
mode.
about like, okay, if I'm on the map and I'm staring at the sun here, that means, the interstate should be in this general location. I'm going to find my way back if I have to. I don't like having to think that way.
I don't know. You see, I feel like as soon as I lose signal, especially if I'm not in our Jeep.
I was on a job working out of town, Opelousas, Louisiana, I believe it was. And you called me crying. And you're like, look at the picture, I'm lost.
You sent me to some field.
No, I gave you the address to the hotel. And
I put it in.
but what threw me off is the fact that you didn't just stop driving on the gravel road. You drove for a mile down a gravel road.
I was thinking, okay, it's got to
in
be
a
somewhere.
field, expecting what, a hotel to just capsule corp
Well,
out
you
of
just
nowhere.
never know.
I'll never forget that. I'm like, I look at this photo and I'm like, where do you think I am? Because I'm definitely not in that field. Those are moments where that's not a long-term effect, right?
No.
So that's a discomfort in the moment. And some people will say, like myself, like, okay, I'll reset my phone. Or maybe you'll step out of your extreme discomfort and go ask someone for some help.
Yeah, but then what if you get robbed?
But like, so that's where we're totally different. I don't ever think I'm going to go ask somebody for directions and I might get robbed asking them.
You don't know. I don't have no money, so I don't know.
Well, then they can't rob you. They have nothing to give. That said, that's a right then and there moment, right? It's just a small glimpse of time where something changed and it's so upsetting in the moment. It's really hard to see into the future. It's hard to say.
It's upsetting because like I feel, how in the world am I I'm lost.
We don't say to ourselves, when I get home, I will never drive again.
No.
Right. So because that's just a then and there moment. It's upsetting, it's discomfort to the extreme, but it doesn't change your life to where you can never change, you can never drive again.
So, which I don't drive a lot anymore,
but that was because you embraced the change and said, hey, I have to do this. You want to go see family, you wanted to go visit me whenever I was away working on projects. So you mustered up the courage to do it. And that's where stepping out of your comfort zone into something that is, for some people, it's the most challenging thing is doing something different. It could be anything. Some people want to learn a new language, and that is like, oh, it's impossible. I go back to my early days back at Delta, where number one, that was a huge change. But then getting settled into that area, working with that company, for the most part, everyone had a degree, and if they didn't have a degree, they had military background. And I came into it with a lot of field experience, a lot of knowledge. I worked offshore, but I didn't have that education, and I didn't know that I was not necessarily, because I knew I had the brains to do it. That was never in the question for me. I was very confident I can handle. It was the time. I didn't know doing it what that time would look like. Would I have enough of time to squeeze in getting an education while traveling all over the country for months at a time?
That was
and that was a big change. It was not only was it a big change, but just to make the choice to say, yes, Sarah, this is what I think I need to do to further our family, to better our family. That's a big change. And it wasn't just a change that was going to be
change and sacrifice. It wasn't just change. It was a lot of taking time away from the family.
Yeah. It has the ability to push people away because you have to make room for it. So little things like, I haven't gotten back into it just because I know it absorbs so much time because it's very entertaining. But I don't watch sports anymore. I don't have time for it because I know that if I wanted to watch sports, it's so much time that it takes away from something else. So I choose to not get into sports. Another really good concept for understanding change, for me at least, and especially for our household.
Trying to be healthier.
Exactly.
Trying to make healthy decisions.
Just trying to make healthier choices in life. So we've both lost a substantial amount of weight.
I didn't really lose that much.
Have I lost a lot? Yes, I've lost over 100 pounds. Now, I've lost that weight because
we decided we wanted to be healthier.
Yes, you pushed me.
Just be healthier. Just, try to monitor what you're eating.
Yes.
At the very least, try to move a little more.
But it wasn't because I just was tired of being big. There was a lot of other things going on. And we especially this was during COVID, right? So during COVID, we both had severe COVID spells where you were hospitalized, you were on oxygen, and I had a lot of stuff going on, and I had double pneumonia, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and all of these things were going on, and doctors are just looking at me like, son,
you need to lose some weight.
You need to lose some weight. And I know a lot of people get offended, like, oh, it's not my weight. Well, that was my issue, though. I was very large, and it was affecting me to the point of I could have just, I could have been like the old man in Ice Age. I was born in this hole and I'm gonna die in this hole. But I had to change, and it was, you said, hey, after Jude, come 6 weeks of this recovery, I'm gonna start working out. I'm gonna start walking, and I'm gonna start trying to make small choices to change my physical health. And I want you to do it with me. And I'm like, okay, well, a buddy system works better than doing it solo.
It is so much easier. Right. I know so many that can't keep it up.
I understand. It is a huge struggle not having someone in your corner, not having someone that's also suffering with you, because it's miserable. And we started off very small, which was, I was over 350 pounds.
We changed our snacks.
We would change our snacks, and when we went for a walk, it was a very short little walk. And then we gradually increased it. We were pushing ourselves well out of my comfort zone. I just wanted to sit on the couch, play video games, and eat cheeseburgers.
It was hard, but we did it. We changed. We adapted to that change, and we're still trying to adapt today, because if we want to continue to take more weight off, we got to start taking in less food.
Yeah. It's little things. It gets harder.
But then you adapt, and it's like, okay, this is life.
People think that, oh, well, once you achieve the success of whatever your weight loss goal is, that life just gets easier. But if you have any,
or once you achieve it, you can stop. That was our biggest thing, because
cannot stop.
We've always gained, lost, gained, lost, gained, lost.
It's a yo-yo effect.
Yes, and then you think, once I hit this goal weight, I'm done. It's like, no,
not even close.
You have to keep up your lifestyle, because I did this because I want to have a good quality of life.
But so you just said
age.
You just said the defining factor of what because I don't do trend diets anymore. I don't mess around with any of that. I eat what I want to eat within my goal window, whatever that caloric deficit is. I have a very we have a very open
we're flexible,
diet, right? Yeah. But we have lost weight. We have built muscle. We've been achieving our goals. But you said the right thing. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet.
You can't just
say, it's not a fad. It's not it's like, oh, this is 30 days, or what do they do? 90 days to change your life. Number one, statistically, it takes like 60 to 70 days just to start a new habit. So just taking the time to do something every day just to build that habit. And it takes a long time because you can't work out every day. You'll burn yourself out in the beginning. And then I feel like a lot of people, they'll start exercising.
We were just like that, though. We'd go in it head first down the rabbit hole.
60 days in, they're like, I cannot live this way, and they quit.
They're miserable.
So we finally, just 2 years ago now, or 3 years ago,
I guess? 2 years.
2 years.
Well, oh no,
so
going on 3.
Going on 3 years now. So made this adjustment in life, saying, this isn't going to be a momentary pause where we just try to live healthy for just a little while. No, we said, we're going to do this, and this is how we have to live the rest of our lives. And I think when you realize,
for me, I feel like if we go back to that,
I'm so afraid for that.
It will be detrimental.
We're a children's book publishing company, right? We want to inspire people. And I think that I want to inspire people to also realize, like, hey,
your health matters.
Your health does matter. It matters so much. And I want to be around for all of the fun moments, but I don't want to just be the person who sits in the chair watching my kids play soccer. I want to go play with them. I want to run around and kick the ball and jump up and down and get on the trampoline and get in the fun jumps and run around on the track and throw the football and the baseball. I want to be able to do all of it. There's so much more to life whenever you get to be in the moment, not just observing it, right? I don't want to live my life like it's a movie.
On the sidelines, yeah. You'll just watch it all pass by. And then that's how you take, some people have lived a short amount of time, or say someone that has a terminal illness and they're given 6 months to live. If they take that time, and a lot of people do, they take it and they get as much, like they live it to the fullest. And they have lived more than someone that's lived 40 years not doing a thing, except watching their life passing by.
So I think a good example for me, and this is just personally, where I noticed one of the benefits of it, because the goal in the beginning was just to lose weight. Like I'm changing because I want to be healthy, but that's no longer my goal. I'm going to continue to lose weight, yes, but my ultimate goal isn't the weight loss. It's other things. Like we're training to run a half marathon, maybe by the end of this year, maybe next year. We'll see how it goes.
My ultimate goal is I want to have a good quality of life whenever our children have children. If we're still here, God willing, I want to be able to, keep up with those grandkids. I want to do things with my children as teenagers.
Yes, I want to have
fun with them.
I want to have fun with them. And so that's what I was saying, where
we're not the picture of health either by any means, but
I've got a long ways to go. And I acknowledge that.
Right.
But I am a work in progress who is willing to change and adapt to what's needed to achieve my goals. And that's what people need to really grasp, that idea that you don't have to, like, I'm a large unhealthy person, I guess I'll always be this way. No.
You don't have
you don't have to take whatever the new trending diet is. You don't have to subscribe and pay subscription. We keep it so simple and it works for us. And I know that everyone is different. The reason you will continue to lose weight, it's not, and that's the difference in my mindset of, my goal isn't to lose weight.
Losing weight.
Your goal is to be healthy, right? So whatever you need to adapt to and change to be healthy, so that you can have a prosperous life with your children and your grandchildren as they come, hopefully, very far in the future. That said,
Lord,
but there's little rewards that I get. You talked about earlier about living life on the sideline. Think about Branson, Missouri, when we went to Silver Dollar City the first time. It's embarrassing.
I still hear myself breathing.
It's embarrassing. Walking up and down the hills, I was so big and so large.
I was pregnant.
You were pregnant. I felt pregnant.
We were both pregnant.
But here's the thing. It was what was embarrassing. There were so many rides I couldn't ride.
And Rachel was so little.
Rachel wanted to enjoy these things, but guess what? Daddy couldn't get on certain rides and do them.
And I couldn't because I was pregnant.
You were pregnant, but you couldn't do it. I physically was too large to do it. They couldn't close me in the machines. So here we are. We just got back from Branson, Missouri, just about a couple of months ago now.
Yeah.
And over 100-pound weight loss. Everything's
so different. I was almost running up.
We were running up and down the hills, going all over the place. All of the rides were back on the table.
And we weren't even dead tired by the time we got back. I mean, we
had so much fun.
We went to bed and we slept really hard, but
it's just a personal embarrassment. Internally, I'm thinking to myself, I just want to be the dad who can come do all of the fun stuff.
Once I hit a certain weight, my blood pressure automatically starts going up on its own.
That was another one.
So
I meant to say that. My blood pressure was so high.
Your blood pressure was terrible.
It put me in the hospital a couple of times and I thought I was having a heart attack. So are there large people that live life perfectly? They're skydiving, they're having fun, they're riding roller coasters. Right. Listen, we're all different. I'm just meaning on a personal level. Between us, we made that choice to be healthy, to enjoy life, and we had to change, and it was very hard. It's still hard today, right? We went and ran a 10K this morning. Yes, we went and did a 10K. My legs were killing me at the end of it. It's hard. But guess what? It feels good when you achieve it and you do it and you're like, hey, you know what? We can do this. We can change our lives for the better.
And again, it may not be for everybody, but for us, it has been very rewarding and it's been beneficial to our health.
Extremely.
No longer on medications for a lot of things, just by cutting out certain foods and just taking the weight off.
That's living.
Mentally, it does a lot too.
It is. It's a totally different mental mindset. It's a totally different shift in the way you think and the way you want to live, the way you want to present yourself, the way I'm looking. And I tell people this a lot of times, like, what is my goal? I want to live life and I want to be able to enjoy it, but I also want to be around. I want to be that person who makes it to 100 plus years. And statistically, the odds aren't in my favor.
I live on the spectrum of, I would love that, but again, I know that I'm not in control of that.
We're not.
I can control what I can control. What's in my hands to control, I will do that.
And I think it's important to say your health is in your control.
It is.
That is, and you have to.
How many times have you heard people losing weight that have been taken off of medicine?
Creating better lifestyle choices, like just a little bit of things.
Embracing a change, choosing to embrace that change.
How does that create how do you prosper in the future because of what you chose to do today?
You have a far better chance that you took the initiative to try to do something, because if you would have stayed going the way you were, and myself, I don't doubt that in 10 or so years that one of us may have had a heart attack. A lot of people don't come out of having a heart attack.
No, and
a lot of people don't make it out. Not every person that is larger is unhealthy, but I know from my perspective and my body, it was too much.
Yeah.
Too much for me.
No, it was one of the best choices we've ever made. Yes, there's positive and negatives to change, and I think that
not all are bad, and
they're not all bad.
All are good.
I don't see all change as good. I see majority of change as good. I want to see most changes as good, but there's a part of my instinct in my brain that fights other changes. So I find myself kind of straddling that fence of change, and sometimes I lean towards resistance, and sometimes I lean towards more of an embrace.
I most of the time lean towards resistance because it's the uncomfortable part of the change that I don't like. I think this is going to upset my whole order. If my day is not in normal routine, that upsets the order for me.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I think that in closing, we can just look at it from that exact perspective, which is analyzing it and saying, maybe this upsets this day. But what about my life,
But
right?
like you always tell me, don't let one thing that doesn't go the way you want it to ruin the rest of it.
Right. Don't let
So-
that one little choice ruin the rest of your day. And don't let that one day that was hard set the stage of hey, the rest of my life will be this way because I couldn't handle this. Like we were saying earlier, I chose, and we did collectively with your support, I went back and I got my education. I went back to school, and I fought for that because I knew it was needed if we wanted to have a better life in our future. And maybe not for everybody. Not everybody has to have a college education, right?
No,
I understand
there's
that.
plenty that make
There's
very
plenty
well.
of very wealthy CEOs that don't have a college education. But for me, that wasn't what life wasn't presenting itself that way to say,
Yes.
you won't need this. It was saying, hey, guy, if you want to succeed in life and you want to be in a better position than you are today, and you want to live more comfortable,